I'd like to call this meeting to order. Commissioner Bailey, would you like to say the
Let's
first?
do roll.
Roll call first.
Roll call, I'm sorry, yeah.
Here.
Commissioner Bailey,
Here.
Commissioner Day,
Here.
Commissioner Sapsy,
Here.
Commissioner Bunting,
Here.
Commissioner Owens is absent.
Okay, now I'll do it.
Okay, thank you.
Bow your heads, please. Most gracious Heavenly Father, we just thank you for the day and the blessings you've given to us. We ask, Father, to continue prayers for our servicemen and women overseas and at home for their safety. We ask, Father, you put special blessings upon our first responders, Father, and keep them safe. We ask, Father, that now this time of harvest, that you give us a bountiful harvest so that we could flourish in Gratiot County. We ask all these things, Father, in your Son's precious name. Amen.
Amen. Okay, the pledge allegiance of the flag.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay. Is there any additions or deletions to the agenda?
Where the agenda is presented.
Motion by Commissioner Bailey and supported by Commissioner. Who was that? Commissioner Shotzi. I just stop and think. Okay, brief comments. Do we have anyone that would like to give a comment?
Vote on that. Got to vote on that.
Oh, I'm sorry. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed say nay. Motion has passed. I gotta get organized here.
You know,
Okay. Brief comments. Is there anyone that would like to give a comment? Is there anyone that would like to give a comment? I thought we had somebody out there. Nope. Okay, we'll continue on. Okay. Consideration of the consent calendar, board minutes, and communication and recommendations from committees.
The consent calendar.
or
Supported or made a motion made by Commissioner Bailey, supported by Commissioner Shopsy. All those in favor say aye.
aye.
Those opposed say nay. Motion has passed. Okay. Administration report.
Thank you. I would just note, last week, the flat roofs were resealed. The majority of them, there's still one small one to be completed. They were power wash resealed. I believe they're back under warranty now. So hopefully that'll alleviate any problems in the foreseeable future. I would also note that we had included in the budget some extra money for monitoring at the county landfill, the water. And last week we received notice from Eagle that they would be participating up to 25 grand. And then we learned this afternoon that they're going to be out there tomorrow and be getting the sampling and such. So it's been kind of after them about getting some assistance with some of that stuff. So that's good to know. We'll probably get an update on that relatively soon, next few weeks, I'm sure. We are scheduled to do finance director interviews tomorrow. We have 4 and 1 next week, so see how that goes. And I would also note that the jail renovation study is supposed to kick off full speed this week as well. And that would conclude my report.
Who's doing the interview for the
Myself, Marianne from Woodhill, and the controller from Clinton County.
Okay, I was surprised that the commissioners, what will you do? Pick out a couple and then we will interview them ourselves then, or?
Yeah, I thought that was left to administration.
This is administrative.
But we'll propose a salary and all that, and come back with that, yes. But, thought I laid that out earlier,
Mhm.
the same evening that
Yeah, you did.
that was gonna be the, interview team, and we'll come back with a recommendation and, salary, and within the salary range that we discussed that and such, so. That's the plan unless I get some other direction.
Okay, thank you. Okay, going around to Commissioner Shopsy, would you like to?
On Tuesday, the 26th, it wasn't really a committee of mine, but I did go to the Gratiot County Drain Commissioner Review at an appointment, and just would like to give kudos to the people in the office. It went very well and they were very, very helpful. So that went well, and I just wanted to put that out there. And then on Wednesday, the 27th, George and I had our Health Commission meeting. This time it was down in Clinton County. Everything's going along well with the budget, and the thing that
The plague though.
yep, we did hear about the plague, because it's, something that's in the news and what have you, but, I think the big dilemma is trying to buy a van. We allocated the money to buy a specific van, and on two occasions that when the dealership has gotten the van in, they've sold the van out from underneath the health department. So they're switching to a different dealer in hopes that they can find the van that they have spec'd out that we approved the finances for. So hopefully that will work out for them. But yep, we heard a little bit about the plague. So, and I think the next month we're gonna have West Nile virus. Is that
I think that's what it is
yeah,
next.
next month will be
It's a slow health month, I guess.
yeah, yeah. Well, some like for months we heard about the bird flu and
Oh, yeah.
that stuff with the effect on the dairy herds and things. So now it's a slow month when we're talking about plague, and then this month, yeah, out west, this month we'll be hearing about West Nile virus because it is in mid-Michigan now.
Yeah, make sure you have that.
Is a thing, so we'll be hearing about it now.
We had somebody died from it.
Yep. Kent County. Yep. That concludes my committee reports.
Okay, Commissioner Bailey.
Well, went to health department. So on Monday, give me calendar back up here where I know where I'm at. Monday, the 25th. I went to Breckenridge for their village meeting. It's all good there. They're all tickled pink that we've got noticed that the building therefore mentioned as Cooper's Corners belonging to Beacon and Bridge, and they pulled a permit to tear the building down, much to the happiness of the whole board. So they're happy about that. And I said, well, don't hold your breath till the building's down. So anyway, and then of course, Wednesday, we went to the health department, and basically that was it.
Okay, thank you.
Forgot to mention, I went to Fulton Township too on Monday. As soon as you said, I was like, yeah, I knew I forgot, but went to Fulton, so not a lot going on there.
Okay, Commissioner Gay, it's your turn.
I didn't go any, but my township meetings are next.
Okay, that's good. Also, I went to one meeting, the city of Alma, and they have a lot going on over there. A lot of, well, one of the big things is they're redoing some of their streets, and they are talking about, taking down a few houses that are past being repaired. So, and they're constantly over there redoing the city, trying to make it look nicer, and so it's always fun to go to their meetings too. So anyway, that's the end of my report. Thank you, everyone, for your reports. Okay, the next part of our agenda today is consideration of new business. So our first person here today is going to be Nelson Road transmission line.
Yes, please.
Yes, please.
Information.
Well, good afternoon. Thanks for having me. My name is Ben Terrell. I'm the regional manager for ITC. And so I'm here to give you an update today on what's called LRTP Tranche 1, the Nelson Road Oneida project. Just to start, I'd love to, if you'll indulge me, just take a couple minutes just to level set to make sure everybody understands what ITC is and what we do, and then we can give you all an update on the project. So hopefully this is working. ITC, what does ITC do? ITC is the utility that operates the long-range transmission grid here in Lower Michigan. So all we do is we're an independent transmission company. We move energy across the state. We're the energy highway for electricity in the state of Michigan. I think it's helpful just to sort of do this breakdown here. I think a lot of local officials are familiar with ITC transmission, and then this part of the state, METC, or the Michigan Electric Transmission Company. Those are names you'll commonly see. Those are subsidiaries of ITC as a whole, ITC Holdings. And what the company does, you can see that the footprint here in Lower Michigan, it's the vast majority of Lower Michigan is in our footprint. We're also part of seven other states as well. We have a large presence in Iowa, Southern Minnesota, Wisconsin as well. So, across the Midwest to some extent. You can see 9,100 miles of lines. We'll talk about voltages here in a second. That's kind of where we are. And when you think of this energy highway, if you will, these are what you commonly see. Our structures are the tall steel structures primarily. There are still some old wood structures that are still slowly being phased out, but increasingly, I think our structures look like this. The project I'm going to talk about today, as in all of our new projects, the primary poles being used are these steel monopoles. And so you can see graphics of those here in the graphic here. 59,000 of those things across the state. So pretty extensive. The other piece of this energy highway are sort of the on-ramps and off-ramps, as I like to call them. These are substations that exist across the state. So substations and switch yards come in a variety of looks and feels and sizes, obviously, but you have a few examples just to give you some reference. Finally, just before I transition to the specific Nelson Road Oneida update, just why is transmission important? And I think there's a few pieces, especially all across the state, but I think Gratiot County included. Reliability obviously is more important than ever. We expect our Wi-Fi to come on, all of the conveniences, the air conditioning to work on hot days. But I think increasingly we also have folks that are vulnerable in our society. I have a family member who is a type 1 diabetic. They have to be able to charge their pump, right? So people have the expectation the power is going to turn on, and when we do have outages, that it's returned promptly. So reliability, increased demand. Obviously, we're always, as a society, we use increasing amounts of electricity, whether that be, air conditioning, devices, all of these things. We continue to increase our demand. And transmission allows us to do that, allows us to move more electricity across the grid to get that congestion. It allows us to bring energy into the state and provides us access to more affordable power in instances where power is cheaper in other places. It also allows us to forego investment. So, for example, the city of Ithaca, if they need more electricity, they don't have to build a power plant, right? We can bring in electricity being generated somewhere else where there's excess capacity. And finally, everybody's talking about AI. I won't even suggest that I understand how much that is going to impact our use of electricity, but a lot of really interesting projections out there and how that's going to change our society and obviously going to change our electrical consumption as well. So with that's kind of the overview. We'll talk a little bit about the project I think that you folks have interest in. It's part of MISO long-range transmission planning. So MISO is the grid operator for sort of the upper Midwest all the way down to Louisiana. And I just show the slide, and there's a lot of numbers and graphics on here. But really just to illustrate, you can see the red lines here. This is the Tranche 1 build outs, the red lines, and it's really creating a backbone across the Midwest. And these are long-range collaborative planning that the grid operators have been doing to enhance reliability, to keep the power on. And even this summer, with all the hot temperatures, we saw some times where the grid was under stress, was under duress. And so these are long-term improvements to maintain our electrical system in the Midwest. Two projects that were part of this Tranche 1. Tranche just means a stage. It's an unfortunate name. Honestly, it's more complicated than it has to be, but two pieces here in Michigan. The one I think you all are interested in is this Nelson Road Oneida, approximately 40 miles of 345 kV transmission lines. That's sort of the highest voltage we currently operate here in the state. From Oneida Township, just southern Eaton County to Nelson Road Substation, New Haven Township. And so just to provide an update of where we're at, I think this little diagram here on the left is illustrated, right? The reality of the work that we do is it's never ending, right? It's cyclical, right? We make improvements. We're doing engineering. They're defining weak points in the system. We're trying to cite those. We're working with folks like you folks to understand the concerns there. We ultimately find a place to do those. We construct it. We get it energized, and then the whole cycle, inevitably starts again. But July 10th, 2025, the Michigan Public Service Commission, the MPSC, approved what's called an Act 30 certificate for the Nelson Road Oneida project. I think maybe one of the take homes here is that they approved the alternate route. So when METC or when ITC proposes routes, they have to propose a primary proposed route and an alternate route. It's always been the MPSC's prerogative to choose one of those. In this case, they did choose the alternate. And so then we're going to move on to to have that project completed. So you can see some general timelines there. Construction scheduled to begin in Q3 2028 and to be completed in Q3 2029 for this specific piece. I'm kind of foregoing the pieces down in Southern Branch and Calhoun counties, but if you're interested in that, we can definitely provide that information. So what does that mean for landowners here? Certainly some folks impacted by this. There's a process for minor route modification requests. A lot of text on this slide. Happy. I indicated to the staff that I provide slides to. Happy to have you keep these slides. This is all information that's publicly available. So you also have my business card. If there's any questions you have, constituents with questions on this process or frankly need assistance, happy to help. So that's my cell phone number on those cards. I'm happy to help get people through this. But there's a process for minor modification requests. There's some guidelines on how that can be done because the route has been finally approved by the MPSC. So there's some limitations on how much the route can now be moved. It has to be moved on people who were notified through the regulatory process of where the route was going to be. But there's a process for minor modification requests. Folks are encouraged here in Gratiot and Ionia counties by January 5th, 2026. And so that's sort of not a hard cutoff. We try to work with people whenever we can, but that's the first sort of deadline, and people have a little time to think about that and to start to have those conversations. So how are those conversations going to happen? Folks are going to, and I think it's important to clarify. I think you folks are probably all aware of what an easement is. We talked to a lot of folks that aren't clear on what exactly happens with these lines coming through. METC is pursuing an easement, right? The right to use, a person's private property for specific use. And so they're going to pursue those easements through, and you'll see these numbers here several times. Universal Field Services is going to be the company that operates as land agents through this process. They're going to work on pursuing those easements. So I think it's also helpful to know that, I think there's a misconception sometimes that, for example, farmers can't farm under these lines. That's not the case, right? They're prohibited from, building structures under lines. You can't build a swimming pool under the line. There's certain types of vegetation. There's going to be concerns with if there's questions on vegetation, but for many uses, people can continue to use that land as they have before, with the exception of potential poles that might be on their property and restrictions for things that can happen in lines. So that's the short story here of all this text. Again, a couple helpful numbers there. The folks can call, email anytime. Land agents are already reaching out, frankly, in this area. And so if folks have those people, they can work with them directly too, but they can always reach out there. And then again, my information is there. If I can help facilitate a connection, happy to do that. And so, again, landowner concerns on any piece of this, that they can always reach out. These are kind of, this company UFS is operating, all the time. It's 1-800 number, the email. But I'm here to help too. If there's, if you have things related to you as an official, happy to help, happy to facilitate the right conversations, get the information we need. So with that, I'll stop and entertain any questions folks might have. Yes, sir.
The route that you provided on here, I guess, how did you guys come up with that one? Because it seems like it zigs and zags, and there's the big one. This isn't even in our county, but I truly don't understand why we would go through so many acres of farmland and not go right through this state game area.
Yeah, and so that's a great question, frankly,
Which I mean, takes it in our county because we're just north of that, which forces it to zig and zag in our county. That's the part that I'm like, if we were gonna go down where you're crossing the river, you wouldn't have had to go at an angle across Gratiot County at all. You could have stayed fairly straight. You go over a mile and a half in Gratiot County and then you come back to cross that river where I'm like, what, it doesn't make, to me, everyone's like, well, they can't go through the state land. Well, they go through the state land. The one that goes north of Grant Road runs right through thousands and thousands of acres state land as my entire life. So I'm like, I don't believe that they can't go through there. This obviously for some reason was purposely routed around it. I don't know if it's floodland or what, but there's a reason why it's avoiding that. And that affects our county because of the way it goes through certain pieces of farmland or, they're bisected now at an angle. So you can still farm under it. You can't ever put a center pivot or irrigation system and all those things that's off the table for these people now. So those are the things I've heard because I'm the commissioner for that area. So
just to share. So, I'm a farmer also. So I'm a seventh generation farmer. I have 138 kV line on the Battle Creek Island Road has gone through our farm the entire time I've farmed it. It goes right through our farm. And so I like to be, obviously there's an inconvenience there. There certainly is. And so definitely understand the concerns. So just to answer your question, and it's probably not going to be an overly satisfying answer, is that there is just a myriad of factors, right? There are, as you alluded to, wetlands, there's nature, there's private lands, there's people's houses, you name it. There are so many factors. And so at the end of the day, we're looking for a perfect route. We're never going to find that. We're trying to find the best route. And again, this is, the Public Service Commission chose the alternate route of the two provided, but yeah, it's just through months and months of talking to local officials, talking to public members of the public, different organizations, landowners themselves, all these things. This was the final output of the work, and so I understand there's it's never going to be perfect from everyone's perspective. There are people that
used to go fairly straight when you look at all the older transmission lines, like the one that runs through your farm.
Yeah.
Probably pretty straight for long shots, right? That's the way they used to build them all. And now it seems that's not the case anymore. I guess I'm at a loss for that. Just how we can, in one spot, they go for 40, 50 miles in a straight line, and now it's curved, cross, go at an angle. So I'm just curious.
Nobody would like it to go straighter more than our engineers, right?
Yeah.
Nothing is cheaper and easier to build than a straight line, but there are just, we try and engage with the public. And, that's going to bring in a lot of concerns, and we're trying to work with folks as best we can to find the route that has the least impact on folks that gets this job done. I mean, we have to build this A to B. So we're trying to do that. And that's not, not a perfect answer, but we're going to have to continue to work to achieve that.
I have several questions for you. Do the farmers have a choice whether they want it on their farmland or not?
Yes.
Um,
I mean, so at this juncture, no.
So say you put it on the farm and that high electrical going across there, that affects them. Are you going to buy them out? Are you going to make that option?
So it affects them in what?
Well, like, I know when they put the wind turbines up, there was many people that got real bad headaches from the noise and the flicker of the windmill. And they literally had to leave. They had to move. And so they moved over the other side of Gratiot County, and then they put wind turbines up there. So that's what I'm asking is, like, say you put it across somebody's farmland, and it's pretty close to their home. Are you going to put in a contract that if they're not able to live there because of that, you'll buy them out?
So I don't know those type of circumstances. So these things don't make noise. They are safe. They make the same noise as like a light rain or refrigerator. And so, they are very quiet. They are not dangerous. And so we are routing around folks' homes. Now you mentioned farmland. I guess I'm not certain on the impacts that, when folks are negotiating easements, they can absolutely negotiate for the, difficulties in terms of operating a farm operation. And the earlier we engage, frankly, we can make some logical decisions on where these go for a farm operation, right? There are some widths that allow it to be farmed, easier than others. We can place them in corners of fields. But the later we get in this game, the less ability there is to do this. But yes, those are things that can be negotiated in those easements.
Okay, and then another question is, where is your company out of?
ITC Michigan is out of Novi.
Okay, because when I looked up your company, it said China.
That's not accurate. So ITC is
Are
owned,
they the ones that manufacture the company, or? Because I looked up several different places and each time it came,
Holdings is owned by Fortis. Fortis is a Canadian company.
and are they out of, is it Michigan?
No, so ITC Holdings is out of Michigan. It's headquartered in Novi, but ITC Holdings is owned by Fortis. It was a Canadian
Is
company.
any of the parts made from China?
Don't know that answer.
Because when I brought it up, that's instantly would have said China and Soviet, China. Communist China, I'm sorry, communist China. That's why I wondered about it.
I would just, with all due respect, I push back on that sort of characterization. So I don't know. I'm certainly probably, there are components used in this entire process that are manufactured in China, but yeah, I don't think that sort of connection is really appropriate.
Well, it is kind of important.
Fortis is in Newfoundland. I think it says headquartered in Newfoundland, Canada.
Newfoundland.
Yeah, out on the-
I would, I mean, I'll take and show these guys later after the meeting. But yeah, I check out all the companies because of the fact that, I mean, a lot of people put wind turbines up in the solar panels, and once they get them up, then they're not as happy with it. And, where do they go or what do they do about it? They're kind of stuck with it. And if you have a home or a lot of property, it's very hard to sell it, especially once it's there. It's the same thing with I mean, I would like to say this is a great thing, but I mean, I thought the wind turbines were great and I thought the solar panels were great and the substations were great, but a lot of people now are having some second thoughts and having some health problems. And, maybe it's not the solar panels, maybe it's not any of that stuff, but still you gotta wonder.
Appreciate that. I would just draw the distinction. This has nothing to do with solar panels or wind turbines. So,
I'm just kind of
if we
giving
built
you
a
an
coal
example.
power plant in Ithaca, we would be statutorily obligated to hook onto that. So we are agnostic, completely indifferent to the type of generation,
Okay.
whatever it is. Yeah.
Transmit it.
Yeah, I still needed to ask you, so.
So I've got a little lighter question for you. So we got a transmission line that runs from coast to coast. High transmission line from Muskegon from the west side all the way across. It's on Grant Road.
Okay.
That big high tension. And you're does that go under that line?
So
Can't go over it. That's tall.
I can find out what the
I
plan
mean,
is.
that's 100 foot.
Well, I understand, I know.
It's huge. So I'm looking at that. Well, how does that work?
They definitely cross lines.
Well, I know, but I assumed it has to go under it, but the reason why I asked is how tall are these poles?
Yep, so the poles themselves will be 125 to 180 feet tall.
Yeah, well, that's that line.
How tall is it? 100 and?
125 to 180 feet, the structures will be. And they'll be 800 to 1,200 feet apart. And so that's also a piece from the
How
farm,
many feet apart?
800 to 1,200 feet.
800 to 1,200, okay.
As a farmer myself, from my perspective, I would much rather have a transmission pole in my field than a distribution pole, right? Because I'm not gonna hit it with an implement.
Mhm.
They're way too far up there and they're that far apart. There's a lot less than to deal with, but
I'm just curious how that,
pole is not beneficial.
I'm just curious how that works, because I know that it's been there ever since I was a kid. A transmission line that runs from Muskegon clear across the state.
Just by looking at it, because where you're coming out of at Nelson Road literally is right. The reason those two power stations are there, substations are there, that you're gonna be coming out of is because of,
Wind turbines.
well, one's out of a gas power plant. The Nelson Road, the original one that you're hooking to
Nelson Road Power Plant, yeah.
is where the gas power plant, North Carson is,
Yeah.
and there's the one right next to it. And that's the reason they're there is because of that.
I'm just curious.
I don't know, it'd be interesting to see if they go over or under it right there, because it's
It's just-
the picture, it's right there? Like you guys are gonna go under it or go way up over it, probably under it to get started and then go.
Just try and get to it.
I'm just curious.
One more question I want to do, is there anybody in the audience that has any questions?
Henry Davis. Years ago, these lines would be put in different areas and farmers would build buildings underneath them with fluorescent lighting in them, and they get their lights lit up for nothing, just for being under that line.
That's a good idea.
There's been proof that they emit energy. Is there distances from these lines that you are staying away from residences? Or
Yeah.
are you-
Right on the map.
Is there any research done on that?
Right on the map.
There is a lot of research and frankly, I'm not an expert on that, but we're looking for 100-foot easement each side of the line in this case. And yeah, those are federal standards. They should be completely safe. I understand that we did, frankly, everybody knows that farms used to have issues with stray voltage. There was more of this stuff. I would suggest that the improvements that have been made, I mean, our lines are really good. And so we've made a lot of improvements in this process, and I don't think that you're going to see anything like that. And that's a shocking thing. I haven't heard that, but certainly I've heard from enough farmers that had, issues like that. I mean, the thing with stray voltage is we don't see that a lot on our lines because they're so far up there. Usually stray voltage is a tree leaning against a line, something like that. But those things used to happen when our towers used to be smaller. Those lines used to sag more, all those things. I mean, the system has gotten better as it's gotten bigger.
These are gonna be the biggest ones. What we use in Michigan, these are gonna be.
At present, that's the biggest we operate. In the future, there might be some.
The bigger, but yeah, but right now in Michigan, this 345 is as big as it gets.
It's not uncommon. There's a
No,
lot.
you see those things you had in pictures of, you see a lot of.
But if you do look at the map, the way it's laid out, if there's a homestead, they go clear around it. It's not like it's. So I've been looking going down the line there, and if there's something in the way as far as a homestead or a building or whatever, they go around it. See, that's going around it. You can keep going and you can see where they've moved it because of the buildings. Well,
Your process for you said you've got people out in our community now meeting with these landowners, right? Negotiating, I guess would be what you're saying. Okay, so I went to a couple of those meetings because it's runs through two of the townships that I'm the commissioner for. So I know that some of the initial amounts were not appealing to some of the landowners just because of the inconvenience of having to farm around them. And even though they are 800 to 1,200 feet, everybody, it's better than what you were talking about, regular, residential lines. Is that something these people are gonna end up having to fight out in court to get what they feel is fair compensation, or do they usually meet in the middle or does it depend?
Yeah, so there's a whole myriad of ways, some folks will, obtain counsel and they'll have negotiations, right? There's ultimately, because there's a certificate of necessity, you can't build a line that goes through, 200-300 property owners without, the capacity to condemn property at the end of the day. So some of those will go through that process. There's a process where it goes through arbitration and they establish a value. So that's the last step in the process. But yeah, I know those folks are, working really hard to offer incentives for people just to, try and, meet them where they're at and try and, find ways to resolve these. So.
Cause I know that's the people that were in attendance to this, there was a few of them that had it fairly close to their home, but the vast majority of the people who attended these meetings were the farmers, the landowners that had significant, investment in this, that these things are gonna run right through, and irrigation, something I heard, from multiple people, because that area of the county, if you look just north of your map where it starts, what do you see? Circle, circle, circle. I mean, irrigation is becoming a bigger and bigger thing in our county, just with the changing weather patterns and things, and it kind of takes these off. So that was a frustration for some of them. And I know that was part of their, like, now I can't ever do it. So.
Yeah. And so I think if we can have those conversations at the outset, I think there's things you could think about, right? From the outset, but definitely understand that. And it's a double-edged sword. I always like to throw this back because, also, electricity is power and the vast majority, I mean, you can't irrigate.
You can't, you gotta have it, so, yeah.
Yeah, electricity. And so, I mean, it's a double-edged sword. So, for everybody to have it, we have to have it up there. But, yeah, it's, for folks that are at the end of the road now, yeah, that is definitely something to consider.
Does anybody else in the audience have a question they'd like to ask?
This company ITC, is this funded at all by the government? Or is this something that a private contracting company owns, or, where are you getting the money to do this?
That's a great question. So ITC is a privately held utility, just like consumers, DTE, other utilities across the state. So it's a privately held utility. We're regulated on rate of return by MPSC, things like that. These projects that are MISO projects are going to be distributed across the MISO footprint. So ratepayers ultimately foot the bill, but these are spread out across a larger region. Does that make sense?
It makes sense, but when you involve DTE and consumers, we know that they're doing things that the government money. So I was just wondering if this is something that Whitmer's pushing to get involved before the elections in 26, just because of the way she is in my mind, but I'm just curious.
I throw those out just because those are ones that company that people are a little more familiar with. ITC doesn't appear on anyone's bill, so those are our largest customers. But just in terms of utilities, they make these investments, and then the Public Service Commission regulates their rate of return on these investments that they've made on these public infrastructure projects.
Okay, any other questions? Okay, we got it.
Question.
Okay.
Who actually figures out that they should do this? Go from one place to another or do it at all? How is that?
So most of that is done through, and I mentioned long-range transmission planning. It's done through the grid operator, MISO. So MISO is the Mid-Continent Independent System Operator, but it's a nonprofit that brings together all these utilities across that region, across that footprint. All these utilities are hooked together. MISO is the one that coordinates all of that because it takes a tremendous amount of coordination to keep this system going. And that's what you mentioned, Nelson Road, and that's the perfect example, right? You have maybe a substation that came on we can attribute to a specific reason, but then it's part of an integrated system, right? We're all linked together. I mean, some of us will not remember the 2003, 2004 blackout. Right? I mean, these cascade effects are all linked together, are a possibility. And so we do all have to sort of plan together. They are the ones that actually permit any new generator to come on. So they have a queue of people waiting to get on. So they'll study these things, look at whether it's needed, whether that placement in the grid works. They will approve those, and then we're obligated to interconnect to those. So they're the one that coordinate all of this, supply demand across this entire area. Is that the nature of your question?
Yep.
Yeah, and it's a huge task, and it's really complicated, and but they're looking at congestion on the lines, and frankly, as someone's not an electrical engineer, I'm not sure I could fully explain that, but right, you can only move so much electricity across these lines, right? If we could just run one line across north, south, east, west, we'd be there, but we can only move so much, and we keep needing to move more, and that's why we have to have additional lines and grid build up.
Okay, one more time. Is there any other questions? Okay, any other questions? Okay, we'll continue on.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yes, thank you. Okay, budget for 2025 and 2026. Right, Mr.
Yeah, well, anyways, I wrote just a little quick cover memo. I believe you received the proposal and some supplemental information, the capital plan and the statement on fund balances for the various funds. Mary Ann's prepared PowerPoint. I believe you should have a copy in front of you, but it is on the screen, and we're just gonna hopefully get through this and have a discussion and prepare to adopt the budget next meeting.
This is just a short PowerPoint to start our discussion on the budget tonight. Basically, the general fund budget, we'll start with that. It's a status quo budget. There aren't a lot of changes to it as far as it's budgeted last year versus this year. But it is, if you look at it, it's kind of hard to follow compared to last year because I have done a lot of streamlining of the budget. As I mentioned last time, we closed out a lot of funds to the general fund. We set up some new departments in the general fund. Now all the legal is all in one department. The audit's a separate department now. It used to be in the administration. The finance department has been created. Moved out into administration and adding a staff member to that. Talked last time about the retiree fringes. They're no longer in the department where the person retired. There's a department for those. We also set up a department called Office of the Community Supervision. That used to be housed in district court, but it actually, that department serves all the courts. So we set up a separate department for that. So a lot of this has come out of the discussions that Ryan and I had with department heads as we were preparing the budget, things that weren't working for them. We wanted to make the budget for 25, 26 and future accounting help our department heads to be able to manage their funds. So that's why a lot of these changes were made. So the general fund budget is going to be using $1 million of the assigned fund balance. As we talked last time, we're recommending that you make an additional contribution in the MERS defined benefit plan to pay down that liability. But even after that $1 million comes out of the assigned fund balance, the unassigned fund balance is going to go up by $295,000 roughly. But we're also recommending that you, in the 25 or 24-25 amended budget, that we set up an assigned fund balance. What an assigned fund balance is, as a board, you can decide to set aside certain funds, assign them, if you will, and then they can be unassigned at another time, but assigned, we're recommending that we take 25% of your current expenditures and put that in an assigned fund balance of $4.5 million. And the reason why we're saying that is to allow the county to smooth out the depreciated personal property and that may not be replaced in future years. Just gives you that cushion rather than having it all sit in your unassigned fund balance. It looks like you have a plan for that. And your plan is you're planning for the future when things might not be as rosy as they are now. Some of the other fund highlights are mentioned last time that we eliminated 14 funds to make the accounting a little easier. The most significant of those is road patrol. We had that in a separate fund. Now the millage for the road patrol and those officers that were being assigned to those funds are moved into the general fund. It's just another revenue source to pay for your sheriff department, not necessary to have it in a separate fund. One of the other changes that's in the budget is central dispatch is asked to have 2 additional dispatches put in the budget. So that's in the proposal. Another change came in front of the court. I think I mentioned this last time too, that we began charging them the overhead that was calculated in the study that was commissioned by the commission here. And that meant that they couldn't afford all of that. So we actually had to increase the general fund contribution of $122,000. You may think, why did you do that? But it shows what the true cost of the front of the court is. Front of the court couldn't operate it on their own. They need accounting, they need payroll, they need the administrator. So that's why we did that. The blight elimination fund, this year we are going to have to contribute $10,000 of general fund dollars because the fees for that blight elimination versus the time it's taking is not covering it anymore. And I know Ryan has that on his to-do list, but we're going to need to look at the agreement and the fees and the enforcement to make sure that we can try and eliminate that general fund subsidy to the blight elimination program. The economic development and agriculture millage, we're recommending that that be reduced by 0.05. As we mentioned at the last meeting, Greater Gratiot has a significant fund balance available for economic development. So this reduction in the millage would result in a reduction of $58,000 to them during 25-26. And the reduction in the millage will still fund MSU extension at what they've requested. And then on Commission on Aging, we're recommending that we reduce the millage by 0.1. They will be using $500,000 of their fund balance, but they certainly have significant fund balance that will allow them to continue to provide the same service level that they've been providing over the last several years for many years to come. The treatment court, we changed that a little bit. There was a mental health grant, and the mental health grant had some staffing involved with it, and it was in the general fund. But it relates more to the treatment court, and all those employees were already in the treatment court. So we moved that grant from the general fund to that fund. The opioid settlement fund, that's very difficult to predict what you're going to get. So it's kind of a best guess at this point. And then we've been approving the distributions at your last couple of meetings. I think you have one on the agenda tonight. So we'll need to amend this as settlements are received and as you enter into new contracts. The child welfare fund, that one's also very difficult to predict. Those are the payments that your county makes to the Department of Health Services. And we budget high for that and hope for less. So we budgeted for $344,000 that actually goes into this fund, but it's paid for by the general fund. Currently, we're at $206,000. So we hope that there's some funds that we won't be using that we can relieve, and we won't transfer money from the general fund unless it's needed over there. The child care fund is also very difficult to predict. This is what the county has to pay for in-home and institutional care of juveniles, which is very costly. In the past, it's been that the budget has just been budgeted high. The general fund budget for a contribution to that was budgeted high. We want to create a fund balance in this fund so that we can make it more realistic and then allow them to plan for the volatility within that fund instead of having the general fund absorb that. So we're going to do that in 24-25. So in 24-25, we're going to actually contribute $374,000, even though they may not spend all that. So that will allow us to, in the 25-26 budget, to reduce that to $140,000. The debt service funds, we paid off the central dispatch and county bonds that were issued in 2005. So those funds will not appear in the 25-26 budget because they're done in this year. And then, as I mentioned in our last conversation, that this is the last year of the pension bonds that were issued in 2017. A new fund that was created in 24-25 is the Land Bank Fund. Terry's running with Greater Gratiot, and there's a state grant of $145,000 to improve 200 Prospect in Alma. The airport, you contributed $1 million to the airport in 24-25. So we're not recommending that we increase that or add any additional contribution. There's also a federal grant for the T-hanger, which I'll talk about that a little bit later. But we want to caution you on the long-term funding of capital and operations at the airport. I have 32 years of experience working with another airport, and it's very, very difficult to have them be self-sustaining. The fuel sales are very rarely enough, or are never enough to cover for the cost of the plan. So you have to look at it as an economic development tool. And it's going to be costing the county over the years to operate that airport. The jail commissary, in the past, it had the fees that the inmates pay if they're able to, some jail cost, and there wasn't really a rhyme or reason of what jail cost went there versus what went in the general fund. So we've changed it back to being just the commissary. What is paid by the inmates to buy things at the commissary and cost to have those things available. The fringe benefit fund, is now only going to have defined benefit plan, healthcare, and workers' comp. In the past, dental and vision and these things that could be charged off directly, they don't have any costs other than the premiums. Those will be charged directly rather than going through the fund. And we won't know what the contribution for the healthcare costs are going to be until after open enrollment. So right now, it's just a best guess. We think with open enrollment, people will make some changes because they've never had to pay before. Now that they have to pay, they're going to have to think about what plan to be in. So we'll need to amend that when open enrollment is completed. The capital improvement plan that was in your packet has, for 2026 to 2030, it has $7.6 million worth of expenditures in it. And that doesn't include the jail renovations that you're studying right now, because we didn't have a figure to put in there. And when you do a capital improvement plan, you look at the upcoming year, 25, 26, try and get real good estimates of what you're going to be doing for that. And that's $2.1 million. And the other years, you just kind of use placeholders and your best guess for what those projects are going to cost. Some more highlights of the capital improvement plan for this year, or I'm sorry, for the 2026-23 year are the major projects are the sheriff patrol vehicles at $1.4 million. We have a strategic plan of how to do it each year, how much, but every year, as you can't just replace them all one year and be done. You need to keep going with that. Central Dispatch has $3.3 million worth of capital projects. The millage is meant to cover those, but these are much more than what the millage can cover. So we're going to need to prioritize those in future years or seek additional funding. The airport T hangar, the total cost of that is estimated to be $391,500. The local share is 5%, and that's $11,440. The rest will be covered by federal and state grants. Those federal and state grants are great, but they also come with strings that you can never close an airport. If you've gotten federal and state funds, you have to pay all of them back. And
We already have that.
there's these and the ones that
Can't get out of that one.
can't get out of them. No. So the jail renovation, as I said, we're going to study it, commission a study to have that, what needs to be done. And then I indicate here that it's possible you're going to need to bond for that because it may be too expensive to absorb. So our budget next steps, we're on the home stretch now. September 11th, we're going to have a budget document to you. And on September 16th, we'll address your questions. And if you have any more questions, I'll do an overview of the 24-25 amended budget. And then on the 16th, we'll also hold a public hearing and adopt the budget. And then we'll be asked to consider the amendments to the 24-25 budget. That's the last meeting of the year. So these by statute have to be done before September 30th. So we hopefully can get them done on the 16th, so we don't need to do a special meeting. So again, I'll answer any questions tonight that you have, and then if you have any future questions, just email Ryan and we can make sure we have the answer. Get it all wrapped up next meeting.
And I would just note, we will have some additional documents coming up, as she's noted, budget resolution and have a position allocation list and, a complete booklet for the 25-26 budget.
I assume we're gonna have good adjustments coming through.
I mean,
Budget adjustments for.
yep, there'll be a resolution to do the budget adjustments, which the budget adjustments, as I indicated last time, are going to be quite massive because we haven't done them all year. It's not the best practice, but that's where we are right now, but we're gonna get it done.
Make sure we didn't.
And there'll also be a transmittal letter that'll highlight some of the things that we've covered here and such. So apologize, it's not all on a nice clean package for you this evening, but 95% of the information is here. There's going to be some hands, but we'd be happy to answer any type of questions you might have on the budgets that you received. There, the difficulty with the budget this year was the previous year's budgets and the way things were budgeted. She mentioned all the funds that were closed and the merging of the secondary patrol into the general fund. And so it's kind of inflated some budgets and some have just disappeared. But I really believe that this is a much cleaner budget. And another difficulty, and I about pull my hair out. Typically, when you do a budget, you look back a year, 2 or 3 year trend line, and you can have an idea where you're going on. Historically, a lot of the departments didn't understand the budget process very well. Didn't understand the use of the different line items within their budgets and where things were being charged was kind of a just, sometimes it's just throwing a dart.
Yeah.
So there's been some movement. And I think this honestly is a very good improvement over previous iterations. But as the county moves forward, this budget should become more refined and, you
I'd
know,
also-
more precise as you move along.
I would also like to say, though, the last two administrators that we've had did not have the qualifications to do this job. And because when I started, I've been here 25 years, when I first started, we had a whole, there was 3 meetings a month. And one of those meetings was for us to work on a budget. And it was back, there was 3 years that you could go back to and to see what you were doing and where you were at and where you were gonna go. And I see also everything was accountable. Every dime that came into this place, or a dollar, I should say every penny that came in, we also knew where that penny went out. And we don't see that anymore.
Yeah.
And we don't have an opportunity. We really should be talking to every one of the departments so we know what's going on, how many employees they have, and what is new and what is not working and this type of thing. It's hard for us to make a decision on a lot of things here because we don't really have a full picture. You can bring, I'm sure if I took this to anybody and said, you know, give me some questions, they wouldn't have a clue what question to even ask.
Again, I understand what you're saying. There is a distinction between management and the policy board. But that said, it is a team effort and all the
Yes.
departments need to be involved in the budget. They need to know where things are properly
And
assigned.
they used to be, yes.
There needs to be that discussion between management and the departments. And that's been severely lacking.
Yeah, well, we used to. That's,
I'm talking between management. I mean, they have not had proper training and understanding of the budget process, how those funds are utilized, and the impact that they have on the general fund. And the part of the administration's job is to help you understand the functions of those departments and where the money comes from, where it's going. I mean, I don't think it's necessary to sit and look at each line and each dollar, but and there's a responsibility on behalf of the commissioners to study it, ask intelligent questions. And again, that process will evolve here, but just the way it's presented and the understanding of all the players, all the department heads and how they're managing their budgets. They're assembled by administration, where the revenue flows are coming and how they impact, just like we talked about with the wind energy, the depreciation and the impact that's going to have. I mean, that's where the big tent is. If you're anything, you need to absolutely know that and understand that to some
exactly.
degree.
I agree with you.
We're getting that ball started. And again, we're not gonna fix it all in
Oh, I
3 or
think-
4 months, but the ball is starting in that way and you need to push this thing forward in that direction. Try to lift the understanding of all involved.
Yes, I agree with you there.
I guess that's the best way I can answer that question.
Look with your interviews, because the next person's not gonna be you standing there next year, or you, it's gonna be whoever that new person is that you guys are in the process of trying to hire. So hopefully we got some really good candidates and there's gonna be some cream that rises to the top that you guys can.
It's gonna be the time too, because it was a shared position too. Now it's gonna be one full-time equivalent.
Yeah.
It can devote to accounting, budgeting, forecasting, long-range planning.
I spent a significant amount of time on the phone with both of you with questions that I had on this. You know, some of the things that, can you like maybe pick a specific, because when you look at this, like I told you, it's kind of it's confusing because you got these big blanks of, you know, white lines of nothing. And then, but if you talk to you and understand it, then, okay, I'll use, you know, we had 101, 699. And then all of a sudden we had a new, you know, that was the cleanup area where a whole bunch of budgets got cleaned up out of that. Then we put them into a different fund and then you can completely draw a line from one to the other.
Let me
That is.
share with you then, if you go to page, let's see. page 5 of 12 of the general fund.
Okay.
Midway through the page, you see taxes in Department 301. Department 301 is the sheriff department.
Yep.
So there's nothing over here in 23, 24, 25, and 24, 25 amended budget. That's because that all was in that road patrol in that previous fund. So now we've got the revenue source of $903,000 for that special millage for road patrol that appears in this budget for the first time. Was in the previous, it was not that it's new to this budget, it was in a different fund in prior years. And then if you go back to page, where is this? Page 10, middle of the page, public safety, 301 Sheriff Department. You'll see that the amended budget for 24-25 is 1.9 million. And then the new budget is 2.6 million. That's not because we gave our sheriff deputies a big raise. That's because there's 4 officers that were in that other fund are now in this fund. So that's why it makes it very difficult to compare budget from one year to another, because you kind of have to put the pieces together to get to one. But in the future, this will make it a lot easier going forward. We ripped the Band-Aid off. We've fixed a lot of the things that were not working for departments. And so we can't do comparisons this year, but in the future going forward, this is going to make it much easier, much more efficient. Does that make sense?
You have mentioned that we have a money problem. That you have mentioned that the last time you were, our last meeting, that we couldn't be spending money like we have been because it's not there. And so we still have money coming in, but we're not going to have as much money coming in as we used to, because some of our wind turbines are going to be depreciated out.
I addressed that in my transmittal letter, and she touched on, I think the biggest piece to that is the county is in pretty solid financial shape right at the moment. But as we went through last meeting, we looked at, if you get a good increase in your taxable value, the real property taxable value, 4% or better, the county will fare reasonably well with new revenue, and from its primary source, 66% of its primary revenue comes from taxable value. But you have a significant piece in the personal property taxable value, and wind energy accounts for about 25% of that total.
Mm-hmm.
So if you only get a 2% rise in your real property taxable value and your personal property taxable value, that 25% declines 4%. It's going to drag you flat, or if it's less than 2%, can drag your revenue under in the backwards in property tax. So overall, your whole budget's going to go flat, or revenue's going to go flat or potentially drop. That's why we're recommending that you reserve 25% of your expenditures assign it as a reserve for flat or declining property values. If you don't get the $400,000 gain you would typically get in a typical year through your property tax, you can hit that fund, you can cover it, it'll give you an opportunity to flatten that out and make some adjustments. If that happens over a period of a couple of years, well, the trend line doesn't looking good. Well, the best news is maybe things will recommission or something new is going to happen. At that point, I would suggest you take a look at that, get rid of that MERS unfunded liability, put some money in your capital plan. If you need to do these jail renovations, you can go and bond, but you better have a hell of a lot of money down because you want to have a minimal bond payment. So, I cover some of this stuff in my transmittal letter, but the board just needs to be cautious. There's a reason to be optimistic. You're not in bad shape right now, but need to be very careful each year and just incremental steps, and you'll be fine. Healthcare is rising, pension costs fluctuate, healthcare goes up, cost of living, COLAs for your employees. You know, you can generate a few $100,000 of expense pretty quick. If you're going backwards, you're gonna be down substantial cash. So
Just unknown.
year to year, the more you can eliminate that volatility in your pension fund and those other things, the better off you're gonna be.
The other
To me,
complicating,
that's the key of how this place is gonna move forward.
other complicating factor with your real property tax too is because of Proposal A, your increase in that, if it doesn't sell, is capped at the rate of inflation or 5%, whichever's lowest. So if we can ratchet down inflation, we've had many years when real property taxes the values have gone up less than 1%. And they look at a different inflation index than what things actually cost in some cases too. So it's hard to keep up with the inflation with that formula unless things become uncapped and go up to what their actual value is, or you have new construction in that real property.
Let me,
Just one more thing. I'm sorry. But I talk about this in the transmittal as well. And it's actually on the agenda in subsequent actions here. As we look at our special voted millages, we have some funds that have a very healthy fund balance. You push those back, you have an opportunity next year to ask voters to reset your general allocation. It's 5.9. You're at 5.5 now. There's a difference there of about just over 4/10 of a mil. If you can get that reset, if you can push back some of those other millages a bit, you can close that to a neutral or very minimal increase. And that would generate an additional 800 and some odd $1,000 for general operations. That would give an extra flexibility to pay off your unfunded liabilities, stock some money in capital improvement, some of the badly needed capital plans you have, or provide just a better cushion for a guard against your potential for declining taxable value. So you have some options, and I guess, but those are gonna have to play out over time. The board's gonna have to make some strategic decisions, and the hard part is it's not a year-to-year game. It's, you know, this place is gonna be around 50 years from now.
Yeah.
Put yourself on a good, stable manage within that.
well, one of the things I'd like to see is us to go to take another day out of the month and do have a workshop or a work time where we come in and do work on the budget, which we used to do. And come in and there's lots of things I like to know is exactly how much is coming in from the wind turbines from different areas, the solar panels, the grades or they call them where the electricity goes into
Substation.
grids, yeah, the grids.
Substation grids.
And, you know, I've lost track of all of that. Exactly how much is coming in. That's something we should know. We should keep up with every single month. Unless we have
We don't have that information directly. That shows up in your industrial classification under personal property. And how
But that should be able to be,
that's an enormous task to compute all of that. I mean, it's not impossible to do, but you need more horsepower than we have available right here to get that done, especially in the short time frame we had.
well,
But
yeah, but somebody new coming in could figure this out. And,
I don't know if they could do that, all of that, and keep up with that's a fairly technical.
well, that's another reason. We need to be coming in and doing a finance meeting here. Our job personally is a finance meeting. It's not to come in and just rubber stamp everything. And that's where I'd like to see, I would like to propose this next 2 weeks before the next meeting, us come in and sit down and go through each one of these line items and talk about them. Is there, and any other thing that you're gonna be putting together for us, we need to be sitting down and talking about it and thinking about making a decision today where maybe we shouldn't be making a decision. One of the things I see that we have people that want to have more raises and want to do different, one of them is Terry wants to make one of her people a deputy. And it sounds like it's not a whole lot of money, but maybe we should be watching this a little bit more carefully for the future until we get kind of past some of this stuff and get somebody in here that can help us lead through the rest of the few years. And this is, I gotta tell you, the first 10 years I was on this board, I come in and it was easy to learn everything. Open up a book. Our budget was 300 pages and yours is, what is it, 45? And so there's a big difference in what I'm seeing and what I'm not seeing.
There is a. I'll leave it, Mary Ann.
And for me to make a
This
decision,
line between policy and your administration doing it, and what we did is we met with the department heads to go through it line by line.
we used to do that, yeah.
And it's my philosophy and my professional experience that is management's responsibility. The commission gives direction on policy and but not getting into the line items, and that's what you have your management do. You want to change it to be different than what
Just saying, just saying that we have new commissioners on this board. We've had a turnover in the last, I would say, the last 10 years, a huge turnover of commissioners that have sat on this board. And I'm sure even now, have you George there, you've been on this, you've been in government for 30 years. Do you know Robert's Rules of Order and do you know government? But you've been in here 30 years. You've only been here 3 years. Steve, probably not even a year yet.
In my second year.
And your second year?
Yep.
And you're almost.
I thought you started at the end of last year.
The year before that, I started in November of the year before, so.
Okay, well, even then, I just got one,
2 years and
just 1 year. But I'm saying that we come to this board and we rely on who's telling us something, that's what we believe, and that's okay. But I also think that we should be able to talk to each other about this. We do not sit down and talk about anything. The budget's given to us, we look through it, we come back, we okay it or not okay it, and that's it. And that's not that's not what our job is supposed to be. I know, I've even talked to I'm from Owasso, and I've also had friends in Isabel County. And they have a finance meeting every month. That's all they do is go into the finance meeting, and that's what they work on. They talk about stuff, things they don't know. There's a lot of things I didn't know when I first started.
Well, I would suggest that it's so late in the game to start that between now and the adoption.
Oh, I agree.
If the board wanted to set a separate finance meeting in the coming years, the next evolution.
Well, yeah,
Perhaps that is an informational, educational type of time. You operate different than you did when I worked in my last job. We had committee meetings. We didn't have finance meetings as part of the board meetings. I mean, there's different ways to do things.
Yeah.
So, I mean, that's,
you did have a
that's
finance meeting.
a whole different discussion.
you had a finance committee is what you had.
Finance committee, not
You had a finance committee, not the whole board. You had certain board members that were on a finance
But
committee.
also, how many people did you have on your board?
The point is, there's a lot of different ways to do
Yeah.
things.
Yes.
Committees met, it was a committee of the whole,
Mhm.
but the recommendations were made there. There was a discussion, but there's some. And then it went to a full board meeting, but everybody can operate a little bit differently.
We could have all been in your meetings when you met with the with your department heads if we would have chose, correct? The board members could have if we,
That would have been awfully awkward, but I guess you could have sat somewhere and listened, yes.
yeah, so that we would understand more about each one of those departments if we chose to do that.
I mean, the next budget cycle, you can set up and you can schedule a couple extra meetings and ask departments in, and they can go through their budgets after we've met with management.
I'm just saying if somebody wanted to do that, I'm not, what I did was,
I would not recommend that. That would bog things down, but.
You have to be careful how many are there, then you have to post it as the Open Meetings Act too, so.
but for me, going through this and having lots of highlighted things, that's why it took as long as it did to go through this, was, the things that I felt like I had questions on, I was able to ask those questions and get those clarification as to why things were the way they were, why there was dollar figures. Perfect example, the recycling thing, the MP recycling.
Grant.
It's
Material management plan.
material management plan. That shows up in this year's budget. However, we don't even know for sure if the state's going to allocate any of those funds, if they're actually going to, because the last meeting, they knew if their money was gonna be there. So, that's a good thing that it's there, and it's the only reason that money would be reimbursed from the state is if we spend it. It's not just, they're not just gonna give us a $91,000 gift. It's a matter we have to spend it in order to get it. So.
So.
Are you talking about the one, for the 7 counties are involved in it?
Yeah, the recycling.
You know that any of the Green Deal, all that money's been stopped. That was in that Green Deal, the big, beautiful green.
Yeah, but this state thing, so the money was coming from the state of Michigan, not from the federal government.
Yeah, but does she have that money? They were supposed to get the money from the government, the federal government, but it didn't happen.
Supposed to get it from the state government,
If we're notified that it's not available, that will not go forward.
That's right. It's a line item that has nothing.
It's just that was one of them that.
Yeah, go ahead. Yeah, go ahead.
Number one, cost allocation of a front of the court, that plan costs $122,000. Yeah, how often does that plan be updated?
Once a year.
Okay, so it's $122,000 every year.
No, that's what.
No, that's what the cost allocation is. The plan to study it is, I think, $12,000. Yeah.
$12,000. Okay, and now the county is currently gonna follow the plan, because I think your comment the last thing was it wasn't being followed. So this proposed budget is following the plan as you paid for.
Right. For the funds that for other funds and other funding sources, we've allocated those indirect costs to those.
Awesome. Okay, at the last meeting, you brought up the ditch fund, which was not being, where the road commission was not participating at all. Are they now participating in this budget or not?
No,
The road commission has to be a part of this budget, but to go into whether they're going to pay for the drains at large, that's a bigger discussion that isn't part of this budget.
That's not included. Discussion yet to come. Okay, T hangers for the airport. How many unit T hangers being?
that would be a T hanger. It's a
I'm not familiar with that word.
terminal.
There's none being proposed, there's.
It's
Upgrade the,
it's a terminal.
Oh, I thought it said T hangers.
It was misrepresented.
Did I do it wrong?
They're,
No.
the tag two ways to the,
All right.
Oh, okay.
I'm sorry.
Terminal.
So I was gonna ask if.
I did put T hanger.
We're on the waiting list because,
Yeah.
What are you gonna say?
And,
okay. All right,
Sorry.
those are my 3 questions. Thank you very much.
Perfect.
Thank you, Madam Chair.
Sorry for that misrepresentation. I thought it. T hangers around the brain and I knew it was taxable.
You just painted a bunch of them. That's probably what.
But yeah, that's what I was thinking, T hangers. Any other questions?
Yeah, is there any other questions?
All set.
Okay.
Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Good job.
Did you want us to turn in questions? You
if
mentioned.
you have any, we'd be happy to try to answer. them.
Okay, I'm gonna retype mine up because I've really scribbled on some of these things, so I will drop them off the next 2 days.
All righty.
Okay, I guess we'll continue on just a minute here. Okay, consideration of approving the 2025 tax rate requested from L-4029- Raymond. Ryan, I'm sorry, Ryan.
Well, as I noted, the L 4029 has to be adopted this month. And it's standard operating practice. I had that here in front of me and I'm sure what to put it now. In any event.
Need mine.
That's
your right. Good stuff. Fine.
Thank you. He had mixed in some other stuff. So yes, and we've noted that, as we noted earlier, the agriculture economic development millage, was originally allocated at 5 or voted. Last year reduced it to 0.45. We're suggesting that be dropped another, 0.4. And the same with the Commission on Aging. As we noted, they have a substantial fund balance, about $1.5 million right now. Plenty of money to operate on. And that would be reduced as well. That's what's shown in the L 4029s. ask that you approve it.
We're taking 1/10 off of the ag economic and 0.5 off of the senior, or 0.1 off the senior as well.
A point one.
0.1,
Off of both of those then.
Yeah.
0.1, no, 0.1, 0.5. 0.1 off of COA,
Steve, look at this.
0.5 off of the economic development ag.
Yes, yeah, this sheet does not show it. In 24, you levied 0.45 against ag economic, not the authorized, fully full 5. So,
That's
yeah,
why I
yeah.
got that is-
Attempt to
If I
make
just
one.
pulled it up electronically, what you're looking at, and
Yeah.
that's why I said 0.1 off of both.
Yes, yes,
We're just talking 0.5 off of the ag and.
from a
1
year ago,
and-
yes.
Yeah, from a year ago, and then 0.1, a full 10th off of the commission on aging or the.
And clarification, or none coming off the ag part of it though.
No, the way that,
Just on the, I know a split, and you're just coming off the Gratiot.
no, the agreement, the millage or the special voted language says a third of that, whatever it is, to ag and
Yeah.
2/3 to Gratiot. But there is enough at 0.4 to fully fund MSU extension. Yes.
So once again, the ag portion will be left alone. We're not gonna take any money away from the ag.
They're gonna get 2/3 of a 0.4.
I'm confused because don't we have something down in that we have to vote on tonight to add $5,000 to that fund going to extension?
The agreement for extension.
Well, that's the same, that's the same thing.
There's an increase, but there's still not adequate funds. There's enough money available. Allocation to pay for it.
Mary Ann covered that. She said that there would still be enough even with their increase in
Well,
your
I
agreement.
know, but my point, we're gonna allocate $5,000 more to that fund,
No, to that budget.
for the budget.
But there's $250,000 in the fund balance for MSU extension right now.
Okay.
And there's plenty of money to cover their operation. The budget's different than their
Mhm.
balance. We're holding the balance of that. We're just contracting with MSU
Yes.
extension.
I know.
We have $250,000 fund balance.
Okay,
From that revenue.
all right, I see what you got. Okay, gotcha.
So do I have a motion to,
I so move that we approve the L4029 as presented with the reductions to the two senior village by 0.1, the ag econ by 0.05
Would be 0.1 on the sheet.
okay, motion by
on the sheet. Yeah.
Commissioner Shopsy and second by Commissioner Gay, a roll call.
Gonna have discussion?
Oh, I'm sorry, is there any discussion on that? Bruce, okay, go ahead.
Discussion. Well, it's unusual by our standards to take funding away from millaged entities. Those millaged entities were voted on by the people. So my problem, well, at the end of the day, we'll figure it out, but I just have a problem stepping in and saying, we're gonna take that money away from you. It was the people that voted. But then I understand the other side of the coin. Can you tell me how much money those are gonna generate, both COA and Greater Gratiot Ag together for this year?
It-
You wanna,
No. So let's just do rough math.
well, that's
The
taxpayers are paying, not,
0.4 is gonna generate about $800,000. So 600 of that will go to Greater Gratiot, a couple 100,000 over to MSU extension. The other is a simple calculation.
so
I don't have it.
I'm trying to make sure that the taxpayers understand that goes back to the taxpayer, not to the county.
Yes, but whether you're just not levying.
That's what I'm just saying. I just want the taxpayers to understand that they will not be collecting all those taxes from the taxpayer.
Right. No, you're doing them a favor.
Well, it's,
Going
I
down.
want to make sure the taxpayers understand that they don't have to, whatever that's gonna be, the $20 or whatever it is that.
How come it's not split between the two of them evenly?
Because that's what the ballot language
That's what it
said
said.
when it
Yeah.
put it on it. But, I mean, to echo that, Community on Aging has almost 1.6 million fund balance.
Yeah.
And that's plenty. Greater Gratiot has a similar amount. They're the most well-funded areas in county operations by far.
And currently they are, yes.
And
The reason why a lot of that was because of COVID-19. There's a lot of funds that were expended, but I don't have a current problem just doing this little bit. And knowing full well that next year they'll be coming back for a millage to keep going. And I just want us the board to remember, and they've been fair to us. Remember 2 years ago, or 2 or 3, I can't remember, 3 maybe. We brought all of the entities in that get a millage, every one of them. We talked to every one of them. And at that time, they didn't have fund balances like that because it was for COVID, just before COVID. And so I just want to make sure that everybody understands that it's not a permanent cut. We're only going to do it for this cycle. We're only doing it for this cycle. And then next summer, if you will, they'll come back and they'll ask for a millage, whatever that millage is. And then we'll discuss it at.
Some of them expire, don't they?
those two do.
Yeah. Those two actually
Well, it's
expire.
on that L 4020.
Yeah, the COA and Greater Gratiot, all that expires this year.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Next year, they'll have to ask for funding again, yes.
yeah,
Is that the only one that expires?
yeah, it's on the L 4029 and one.
Very right-hand edge of the,
Millages run out this year, so they'll have to run again.
put it on the ballot.
So just want to remember to ask what their fund balance is and what they're going to need going forward. Now, I can't tell you. I can tell you about 2. I can't tell you about extension because I didn't get to talk to Bill today. Jen is always, you took the full amount. Greater Gratiot takes they don't take the full amount. They haven't ever took the full amount. They take about $60,000 less.
We've sent them their 2/3. We've sent them what we voted.
Yeah, well, there might be a disagreement there. Because according to their books, they take about $60,000 less than their
If
allotment.
they didn't take it, it's earmarked in our reserve for
Yeah,
them.
well, it may be, but they didn't take it.
No.
But I'm just saying. So I just want to make sure that we're a good trustworthy basis with well, they're asking for millages. They're not just building up their bank. All right? There's a reason for it. That's
So
all.
I think it's not gonna be hard to figure out what that fund balance was pre-COVID,
Yeah.
and then post-COVID. I mean, that's gotta be all, I would say, readily available from the county. So when we get to this discussion next year, what's gonna say on the ballot? Do we need to go to the 5-0 or do we go with 4 because of where we stand and where we're at? I mean, that's when we gotta decide.
That's the discussion.
Anytime we can give the taxpayers even a smallest break, ain't nobody gonna be sitting out there complaining about it.
Yeah, but I want to
Be
have,
shocked.
we'll have that discussion, but just,
I also wonder this too. Terry, didn't you have 30 groups of people that lost either property or homes this year from their taxes because they couldn't pay them? And I think you're gonna find that more and more people are struggling. And I'm just wondering if they're gonna vote yes on these millages.
Yeah,
that's always
I don't think they're losing their homes because of millages. I think other circumstances are causing them problems. So anyway, thanks.
Okay. Okay. Roll call.
Commissioner Bailey,
Yes.
Commissioner Gay,
Yes.
Commissioner Sapsy,
Yes.
Commissioner Bunting.
Yes. Okay, consideration to approve, gotta look at my glasses. Consideration to approve the agreement for the extension service with Michigan State University.
Standard operating agreement that we receive annually. There as money accounted for in the 25-26 budget. I've annually asked to have this document signed so they know that they're solid. It's as simple as that. We'd like to suggest that you approve it.
Okay, do I have a motion on?
Motion to approve. Second.
Okay, motion by Commissioner Bailey, a second by Commissioner Gay. All those approve, say aye.
Aye.
Those that disapprove, say nay. Motion passed.
And just a little side note, if you look at the number here and the number in the budget number is a little higher. We provide a building, we pay rent for a building and some other costs.
Yeah.
Okay,
Does that come out of their
comes out of that,
the millage, right?
yes.
Okay. Consideration to adjust the chief deputy wage for the treasurer's office.
I don't know if you want me to come up or.
Well, You have it in front of you,
Pretty simple, pretty straightforward.
it's pretty simple. Required to pay the previous wage for the chief position. That's a legal issue. Was unaware of at the time.
No, we weren't either.
Yeah. No, I know you weren't. I meant.
At a conference this, in August, Bonnie Toskey, who is Cole Stoker and Toskey, she came and she did a presentation on just specifically this. So I'm not here asking for a raise for my people, Jan. I'm here because this is law and we need to bring her up because it cannot be decreased. When she came in midterm, the wage for that position went down because she hasn't been here that long. It's illegal. You can't do that. So we have to bring her up to what was being paid to the former chief deputy. That's what this is about. What I need is a motion from you because she gets retroactively paid back to February when my former chief retired.
This says match 1st of March.
Was she,
Right.
did
First,
she have experience, Terry?
Huh?
Did she have experience when she started with you? Yeah.
yes,
Okay.
Three.
That's what I want.
Township.
yes. She worked for Jerry Rhodey. She worked for Wheeler Township. So,
Okay.
but it doesn't matter if she did or if she didn't, Jan. This law states that that has nothing to do with it because this wage is fixed to the office, not to the person.
Okay.
Because if I can't come in or if something happens to me, she becomes me. So she is a fixed wage, just like I am.
Okay.
Okay, and we have to bring her up to what was being paid prior to her being appointed midterm.
Okay. Thank you.
So I just
Yeah. Does anybody,
need a motion for the retroactive fact.
okay, does anybody have any questions for Terry?
Very clear.
Okay, we're looking for a motion.
So move that we adopt the previous wage for our new chief deputy treasurer and the retro pay effective 3/1 of 25 to current.
Okay, motion made by Commissioner Shopsy, second by Commissioner Gay. All those in favor say aye. Those opposed, say nay. Motion passed.
Thank you. I think the next one is me too, the resolution.
Yeah. Resolution 25.
Yeah. It's no different than what you've been doing in the past on these resolutions. It is just, this is a multi-manufacturer, so it covers a lot of them. And then going forward, there's an agreement that it's going to make it easier starting in 2026, but we have to do this or we are not included in that. So
We have another motion.
I so moved that we adopt resolution 25-339. Resolution authorizing entry of participation agreement and partial settlement of the national prescription opioid litigation and entry of state local government interstate agreement concerning allocations of settlement proceeds. Do you need me to read off all the companies or not?
Do we have okay, a motion by Commissioner Shopsy, second by Commissioner Bailey. We have a roll call.
Commissioner Gay,
Yes.
Commissioner Sapsy,
Yes.
Commissioner Bailey,
Yes.
Commissioner Bunting,
Yes. Is there any, do you have any else, any?
All right, thank you.
Okay.
Thank you.
Consideration of unfinished business. Additional public comment. Would anybody else would like to say anything at all?
Move for adjournment.
Support.